Okay, folks, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Windsor Heights City Council to order. Roll call.
Looks like Travis is just connecting.
Oh, okay. I guess we'll wait a minute then.
And if not, Dave, I can wing it.
Why don't you go ahead and take the roll?
There
We'll
he
let
is.
him
There he
try.
is.
There he is.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Okay.
All right. All right. Skeeries,
Here.
Joseph Jones,
Here.
Mike Lafredo,
Here.
Mike Jones,
Here.
and Harms.
Here.
Okay, folks. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. Next item is the approval of the agenda. I would like to remove item G until we have further decisions on a salary schedule, and that's completed. We just received some new stuff from Tech. I would like to turn that whole thing over to the Budget Committee, and we will go through it top to bottom and bring you folks back a recommendation.
So this is Teresa, and I would move that we approve the agenda by removing 6A and 7G, so job descriptions and the wages discussion. My purpose for doing that is we need to consider the job descriptions and the wages simultaneously. I would move that. I would also say that because we still need to address the current staff evaluations and wage increases for this coming fiscal year, that I would suggest that we have the department heads and Mark make recommendations to the Budget Committee that can then come to the council for approval based on the performance evaluations and the current and have those be within the current approved budget on or before July 1.
Reese, how come you don't want to approve the job description? That's usually the first thing we do before we apply anything else.
Dave, I've talked about this for multiple. I think we have a motion on the table.
Yes.
I second the motion.
Okay. Roll call.
Dave, did you ask for a roll call?
Yeah.
6A, and what was the other one?
7G.
7G. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or? Roll call.
Harms,
Yes.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
No.
and Mike Jones.
No.
Okay. Next item is public hearing on a proposed amendment to Windsor Heights Urban Revitalization Area. Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Is there any public input on proposed amendment to the urban revitalization? Mark, do you want to say anything about that?
Can't hear, Mark.
You're muted.
Mark, you're muted.
No, I got it now. Sorry. Okay, this is the action that puts commercial tax abatement in place if it's approved. I have not had any comment either for or against it.
Mark, I just have one question. Are the changes just those abatements, or is it all the italicized print?
I didn't hear your question. Say that again.
The changes, the amendment, there's some letters italicized. And there is that, I see the exemption thing, and that's new probably, but is the italicized an added word into these things? I have no objection to them, but it's just a question. I just didn't notice it before.
In letter, yeah. So if you look at Exhibit A plan amendment, it's got and commercial, and commercial, and commercial.
Mhm.
So and commercial is the
Yeah.
added language.
Okay, and that's, of course, I assume that, but, sometimes it's not good to assume.
You are correct.
That answers my simple question. Thank you.
Any further comments? Motion to close public hearing?
Move to close.
Moved.
Got a second? Roll call.
Second.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Next item is consideration of resolution 2020-83, resolution adopting the amendment to the plan for the Windsor Heights urban revitalization area.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Okay, next item is the public hearing for ordinance 20-03, amending chapter 101, Board of ordinances relating to stormwater drainage utility. Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
I have not received any information on this, pro or con. Mark, have you?
No. No, I haven't received anything.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Roll call.
Second.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Next item is consideration of the first reading of ordinance 20-03. Motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Next item is Open the public hearing for ordinance 20-04, amending chapter 60, 1007, Code of Ordinances relating to the definition of unimproved surface with regard to parking prohibitions.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Series,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
Dan Harms.
Yes.
I have not had anybody say anything pro or con on this. Mark?
I have not had any comments.
On the unimproved surface, Mayor, I had a couple of questions about allowance for paving stones, and I think along with that would be like brick or something like that. So if council has any direction on anything they want changed in that with regards to how that's worded. The current ordinance has a clause that says such as concrete and asphalt. And then 174.08 has a clause that discusses having to be connected to a paved surface to a street. And so if council has a desire to change that one way or the other and either allow for pavers or bricks or something like that, that's some direction that I could use on this.
Chad, you in the ordinance, I think you excluded like bricks and that type of thing.
I did, based on the way that the current wording was, where it said such as asphalt and concrete. That's kind of what I was going with. So I excluded specifically the pavers and the bricks. I think we just need to be clear on what the council direction is for that ordinance so that there's no ambiguity. But
Okay.
it's up to the council as to what you want to allow or not allow.
Okay, I agree with eliminating them, keeping it simple. So that's my 2 cents. I agree
Chad,
with- I agree with how it's written.
Chad, just a couple of things real quick. So I do have some neighbors that have brick driveways. And so talk to me about how that would apply.
The way that the amendment is currently written, those would not fall within those boundaries. But again, if council has a desire to identify that pavers and or bricks or whatever other material is what you want to allow, that's fine. We can update that to reflect those specific surfaces and then prohibit the others. So it's really just kind of how you guys feel. I know that I was contacted by Councilmember Skeeries, and then the mayor and I had a conversation also, because I think both of them are in positions where they have pavers for some parking. So
Chad, I think, in my opinion, and to Therese, is that how many other driveways have such a paving? So are we looking for exceptions or what here now? So.
Chad,
because
do you want to talk a little bit? Didn't this come up as a concern because of some of the we found conflict in code? Is this part of that conversation?
yes, exactly. So what actually originally drove this was a question about a parking concern from a resident and whether or not what they were seeing was allowable by code. And then when I started digging into code, I found that we have conflicts between 60.07 and I think it's 174.08. And we really just need consistency. And the other thing is 60.10.07 leaves some ambiguity where somebody could say an improved surface could mean a variety of things. Even though the end of the sentence says such as asphalt and concrete, it doesn't identify those the only surfaces. So it's really a matter of to be able to address concerns properly and give the residents accurate information. I think we need to further clarify what an improved surface is And if that's brick, pavers, concrete, and asphalt, that's fine. If it's some other form of a surface, that's fine. But I think the code has enough ambiguity at this point that you talk to different people, you're gonna get a different answer, and that's not good for our residents.
Well, one of the things that Chad and I had talked about was maybe just pulling the whole thing and getting the definitions the same in both places. But we were looking for guidance from council. And I'm going to put my 2 cents worth in. I happen to have a lot of pavers on the east side of my residence where I do have my garbage cans. I do have my trailer and stuff like that. And the reason that I did it that way instead of doing concrete was my downspout goes down there and drains off. And that's just about like having permeable pavers because it drains out into the, between the blocks as it goes to the west or goes to the south. My neighbor to the south has water issues. We were trying to get it so it would soak in instead of making it a solid deal. So I'm in favor of the paving blocks, paving bricks for, like a side yard to do that. But other people would like to have their trailers or whatever in the back of their yard and have them set. And it would be very expensive to have that direct contiguous property to your driveway by running it all the way around. So the other issue is they'd have to bring their trailer up and park it in their driveway. And then we're going to get complaints about that being unsightly. So, it's
Dave,
consideration both ways.
well, then I guess my feeling would be, just playing the devil's advocate a little bit, maybe it should be put in the next newsletter, and people that have variations of what Chad has written to bring it to the attention of Chad, and I mean, I don't know what other varieties there are besides the brick and the pavers and that. So I guess, Chad, the part of the thing that you were trying to do, and you said it well, is to make it specific enough that there was clarity. And I guess I would ask, you probably know what the ordinances are in other surrounding cities. Is that right?
A number of them, yeah. And I mean, you get something different no matter where you go, but I think that typically other communities probably, from what I've seen, allow the pavers and the bricks, but not gravel. So,
Okay.
If the will of the council is to allow something like that, but not a gravel and identified gravel or dirt as unimproved, then we can certainly do that.
Okay, I have no objection.
I guess my concern is, we would have to put our trailer into our driveway, which would then also push our vehicles out onto the streets, which, so would we be grandfathered in? Because when this was put together, kind of like Mayor Burgess, we were in compliance with what the ordinance at the time and the code said. So are you grandfathering people into this so that people who have spent the money to, maybe they have a concrete pad in their backyard to put the trailer or whatever in their backyard, but they don't have it so that it connects with their driveway? What type of grandfathering in are we doing, or are we not grandfathering?
There's nothing written in the code to do that, but again, if that's the desire of council, we can certainly write that in. If you're okay with pavers or bricks, that may be an easier path. Just simply, if you guys ever were to sell your house and somebody came and looked at it and saw your trailer sitting on pavers and thought, oh, I can park a trailer back there, only then to learn they couldn't, that may create problems for you selling your home or for them buying it. So it's really up to the council as to what you guys want or don't want. It's just, my goal is just trying to, like Mr. Lafredo said, trying to provide some clarity to this, to where when someone calls, they get a straight answer, and it's not depending on who you talk to.
Seems like the good idea would just be to put in the exceptions.
I couldn't understand you, Mike. Sorry.
I said, it seems like the common sense thing to do would be to just put in the exceptions.
That would work for me.
And Mike, when you say exceptions, are you meaning like the bricks and the pavers?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with you.
Okay, I'll
Is
add,
there public comment? I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not.
Who's speaking?
This is Darren Series, 1441
Oh,
64th
hi, Darren.
Street.
Sorry, I didn't recognize your voice.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
I think everyone has kind of voiced in one form or another the same concerns I saw when I read that. I think that the one concern I have is the connecting to the driveway. I know that they want that to be continuous, but if someone's in the back side of their house, again, I don't know if someone's willing to spend $20,000 in concrete to park a $2,000 utility trailer behind their garage, but or something that's not used all year and spends most of the year parked behind the house to pave all that. Like I said, I've lived here for a very long time, and when this initially came around, it was just, they didn't want the trailer parked in the grass where it could sink into the dirt or whatever. So we had the pavers put in. So that would be the one piece is, does the requirement to have whatever surface is agreed upon as qualifying as improved, does it have to connect to the driveway? And then I guess getting into splitting hairs, I know there is a residence on Colby that has decorative brick next to their driveway, and if it didn't include brick as a possibility for improved surfaces, then they would have to tear that out to either connect to their driveway. So everyone's pretty much voiced those same concerns, but again, I think the bigger expense is some of that connecting all the way to the driveway, depending on where someone is parking those trailers or boats or wherever at. If it's all the way behind their garage, that could be quite an undertaking to get concrete or whatever all the way around to connect to the driveway.
Can I make a comment to what the gentleman has said? This is kind of in addition to what he said, but I would much rather see it on a hard surface behind the house than parked in front in the driveway. That's not something that's not used. So
I agree with that, and I think that's one of those unintended potential consequences of
Well, I agree
putting
with
a homeowner to do that would be they would just say, well, you know what, I'll park this in my driveway and then I'll just park my vehicle on the street.
I agree with that.
Like,
So I think that should be modified, that because it is a hard on people to have a slab for their vehicles that they don't use very often or for storage. Again, that doesn't bother any neighbors that I know or me, or maybe the other council can respond. I'd much rather see that than unused vehicles in the driveway in front. So I'm supportive of what you're saying, not to have that adjoining part.
Ed, have you got enough information to come up with something different?
I do. Just so everybody knows, the adjoining part is currently already written in 17408. It was part of whatever was passed some time ago. So what I'll do is I will change 60.10.07 based on the discussion here to include pavers and bricks. And then we will also have to amend 17408 to remove that section about contiguous, because that's already in that code.
No, I don't know if the other council members agree with that, so.
Well, we could close the public hearing and go from there, but I figure we've had discussion, so let's close the public hearing.
Just real quick before you do that. So Chad, I want to make sure that our intent within bringing this up was to connect that and then address some questions so we had clear. I want to also make sure as we have this conversation, if there's any other code section that we need to clean up, that we are not interested in having people living in campers on these improved surfaces in on their properties. And so I don't know if we need to address that in another code section or what, but I know that this part of that was of that issue. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to open this back up and let this be a little bit more flexible, that we still have a means to address that as well.
Absolutely. And the living in a camper on any property within the city is already addressed in another code section. It's actually, I was pulling it up here while I was talking.
I believe you. Okay.
Yeah, the code currently says recreational vehicles may be used as temporary housing by non-paying guests for a maximum of 3 consecutive days, 14 days total during a calendar year, and cooking is prohibited at all times. So, you know, if you have somebody there for a weekend, they can do it, but outside of that, we've already got that covered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, move to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
I think given the discussion we just had, the consideration of first reading of that ordinance should probably be tabled until a rewrite and something is brought back to council. I have a motion to table that for that reason.
I'll move.
I'll move that, Dave.
I just need a second then.
I'll either move it or second it.
Roll call.
Okay, so I got Lafredo making the motion and Jones making the second.
That's good.
Okay.
Travis, it'd be
Okay,
helpful if we said our name when we were making a motion? Would that be helpful? Because I feel like we're kind of jumbled all over.
Well, it's just hard with Zoom. You guys, the little yellow boxes pop up, so it's
Okay.
just an adjustment is all. Okay, so roll. I have Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Thank you, folks. Next item is public forum, set aside for comments from public on topics of city business other than what's on the agenda. Will not take any action. Please come to the podium. Or in this case, raise your hand, hit the chat box or whatever, and announce what you would like to speak about. Whitney, do we have any takers?
I've unmuted everyone and so far no one's spoken up.
Okay. Then in that case, we'll move on to the next item, which is consent agenda. Motion to approve.
So moved. I'll second Mike.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Okay, next item is new business consideration of tobacco permits. Travis, you came up with a question on that about what is Grocery Alley is actually Iowa Tobacco on the form.
Yeah, exactly. They're moving a few doors down. It's going to be a family member that's opening up Iowa Tobacco, and they're going to go into the barbershop building. So thanks to Susan for checking that out for us, and went over, and the building is empty, but they are just moving 2 doors down into the old barbershop. So everything was correct on their application. It was just I assumed it was Grocery Alley because it was the same family. So that's the only change.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
and Harms.
No.
That's a given, Therese. We know.
Thank you.
Yes. No, that's no problem. I kind of agree with you on a lot of that. So, next item is consideration reopening City Hall to the public.
I sent out an email this afternoon saying I'm intending to do that tomorrow. Now that all the restrictions on building capacity and uses have been eliminated as far as I know.
Is everybody?
Anybody got any comments on that before we go to a motion?
No, it's pretty well separated, the offices from anybody coming in.
Okay, motion to reopen City Hall to the public.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have one question. Does that mean that Public Safety Building is open also? Or just City Hall?
We'll open the building as well, but we're still going to maintain some reduction in some of the services, specifically fingerprints. I'm still a little nervous about having everybody walking in off the street back in the back beyond the glass and in that close proximity. So for the time being, we'll probably still restrict fingerprints and forward them to Polk County or Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just note that that item does not mention the public safety building. So we're only asking about City Hall right now.
Okay. We could.
I don't know that we had council action to close either one of them originally, so I'm not sure that you would have to vote to reopen them.
Well, I just figured, it's on here, so everybody's in agreement. We've got it there, so give me a motion to reopen City Hall.
So moved.
We already have a motion on the table.
Okay, roll call.
Second.
Okay, I'll take, just to be clear, Harms voted to reopen City Hall. We had a second by Joseph Jones. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Next item is consideration of pay request number 2 on 2020 street improvement projects. Dalton? May not be here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. This is for the 69th and Allison project. Allison started up a couple weeks ago. Things are going generally pretty well on those two projects. If there's any questions, either me or Justin can answer your questions.
Move to approve.
Second.
I didn't catch the second.
Okay, roll call.
Who had the second?
I screwed up. I said second. I was trying to get a second to come.
I will
Oh,
second
I
it.
see. Okay. Okay. Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Next item is consideration of pay request number 2 on College Drive improvements.
Is that D, Dave? Item D?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. So moved.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Next item is item E, consideration of resolution 2020-84 to set the time and place for a public hearing for ordinance 20-05, which amends chapter 30 of the Windsor Heights Code of Ordinances, adding a new section 30.11 for unbiased policing. Motion to set the public hearing.
Move to approve.
Second.
That will be on July 6th. Roll call.
I just want to say we did get some comment on this already. I did forward it all out to you. I will reach back out to that person and let them know that the actual public hearing is going to be on July 6th.
Okay, we will include that in the public hearing.
I think they have already received a response from our police chief.
Oh, okay.
I
Up
also
there.
got comments on this as well, so very positive. So thanks for taking the lead on this, Chad, and for getting this out there. It's very much appreciated.
Good, glad to hear that. Thank you.
And let me just comment too, the letter that we received from the residents on 73rd were well stated, and they need to be recognized and responded to. And I think that's kind of Chad's thing. And so as it moves on, I think there were good questions or comments.
Chad, this ordinance is pretty similar to the one that's being put before the city council in Des Moines.
It is. The wording was actually taken from theirs, and then we stripped some of the stuff that was specific to Des Moines with regards to different city functions that they have that we don't. But short of that, it's close.
And I understand that that ordinance from Des Moines is not terribly popular.
I think there's a desire to have some additional stuff in that at the Des Moines level from the conversations from some of the people that didn't think that it went far enough.
Well, yeah, I spoke with someone from the CCI today with regards to, their concerns about accountability. I think one of the big concerns is when you have complaints being handled internally by the chief of police. I think it creates issues with input and trust. I don't think that we certainly have those issues here. Des Moines certainly may have, or at least a lot of people in Des Moines feel that way. So I think we obviously we're not talking about the ordinance proper tonight, but I think that there may be some room for additions and consideration of what some suggestions may be to make it a little bit more comprehensive in dealing with this issue.
Sure.
And Mike, I think they're included in the letter that we received. Many suggestions.
One thing to keep in mind is that this city ordinance that's proposed, makes a statement of where the city stands on these things and provides that support to police department policies. And of course, we have a policy manual for the police department. And one of the things that I know is a hot topic is the investigation of uses of force that result in serious injury or death. And if we were to have a use of force in Windsor Heights that rose to that level, then we automatically would bring DCI, Department of Criminal Investigation, in to investigate that versus us doing it in-house. So it's a little novel about having a city code versus the police department policy, but there is police department policy already on external oversight of investigations. And we also already report to the FBI use of force database that has been a hot topic. We've been doing that for 1.5 years or so. I got on it when they first started it, and we report every month to that. So there's other things that also go into this that are actually department policy and not city code.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? Next item is resolution 2020-85, approving the city of
Mayor.
Windsor Heights.
I need to do roll call first.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Carnes.
Yeah.
Okay, this 2020-85 is a resolution approving City of Windsor Heights participation in the Greater Des Moines Partnership Small Business Recovery Grant Program.
So moved.
Second.
Mark, do you want to explain a little bit?
Yes. Thank you to Travis and Rochelle and the committee for helping put these numbers finally together this afternoon and getting the resolution out. This is the first of 2 programs for the city. We will be contacting, assuming this is approved, we'll be contacting a number of businesses who didn't qualify for the partnership program probably this week, and trying to get applications from them by the end of this month, so that hopefully at the July 6th meeting, there can be another round of funding approved and sent out in the early part of July. So this is the first of 2 efforts. The second one will not include any other funding. It'll all be city funding.
So Mark, just a quick question. So I'm adding up here and it's $22,000, but it's in the thing, it says it allocates 28,000.
Now that first resolution is not correct. This is revised. Don't use the one that's in the packet. This one that was just sent out here and shortly before the meeting is the one you should be looking at.
Yeah, I sent out 2 revisions like right before the meeting. That's the proper revision that has the proper math for the breakdown, and also the proper math for the total amount of the grant.
I included the one in the packet Friday just so we would have something on the agenda. Otherwise, this would wait until July to get approved, and that's the intent, is to get the money out to people. So the numbers that you received today are the corrected figure.
So Teresa, Rochelle went and called the partnership to figure this out so that we could have the percentages broken down. So the city would kick in $14,970, the partnership $4,560, and then Polk County $2,470, for a total of, I don't know what that total is. Rochelle?
That's the 22,000.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. That's helpful. And I work, so I didn't see that revision before we get on tonight.
Yeah, sorry about that, Teresa, but when we met, we had different numbers than what was originally put together because of the number of approved applications. And so the number was different from the 28 to the 22.
Sure. So we have, thank you. So we have 5 groups, and then, so just so I can understand, Mark, are there still pending applications for this, or are there, or is it only for the other one that we're doing of city?
It's only for the other one. There was one application that was approved through the partnership, but that business is no longer located in the city, so that's part of the reason for this change also, that they will not be included in any funding because they have moved out of the city. They may have been here at the time they applied. I don't know. I don't want to accuse somebody of trying to do something they shouldn't. Maybe they were here at that time, but they're not here now.
Sure. Okay, thanks for the clarification. But the next one that's coming is for the second, or we have opened and extended this for this one that has additional dollars still available?
No, the next one's going to be for other people, presumably, because this batch of applications will now have received their funding. I don't think it would be right for somebody to come back for another bite at the apple when they've already had this bite at the apple, is my opinion anyway.
Okay, that's not what, I'm sorry. That's not so we have 2 different grant programs. And you alluded or talked about, we'll come back on the July 6th with more applicants. Is that for this pot of money, or is that for the other pot of money?
The other pot of money.
The other pot of money. So the dollars that are left, not expended here, because we had more dollars, Are we going to open that back up and let people still apply to accept those or to receive those dollars, or are we done with this piece?
Well, I think we're done with this piece because this piece includes the partnership and the county's participation, and the next piece will not. Now, if somebody wants to apply again, I suppose they can apply again if they like. That's going
I
to be
guess
up
if
to
there was a business that didn't know about it and wanted to make application, that
Right.
would be available. Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to understand for my own purposes. So, okay,
And
thank
then-
you.
If you recall, there was a list that I think Susan put together back a month or 6 weeks ago of who may be eligible for that. So those people will be contacted. Plus, we'll put it out on the city's social media in case there's somebody else that just hasn't come forward yet through any of these considerations. And if there's somebody else, fine. Now, I would say too that I don't believe that rental property owners were found eligible for this program, and my conversations with several of the council members so far are that they would not be funded in this next round also. I guess that's up to you folks if you want to fund them, but I think the intent is for people who have leases and employees and expenses that are ongoing, whereas others who are just self-proprietors, so to speak, that work out of their home or don't have those types of expenses. I don't think that's what the intent is unless somebody wants to correct me on that.
Nope, this is fine. Thank you. I appreciate I just wanted to make sure I understood what was coming forward and if this was still available because there are dollars. Thank you.
Oh yeah, there are.
So do we have a pending motion for this?
Yeah,
Yes.
we would entertain one.
No, I have a motion by Lafredo, second by Mike Jones.
Roll call.
Skiri,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Next item is reports and committee updates. Susan?
Well, we had a committee meeting about 4 p.m. today, and we discussed the partnership grants and then the grants through the city. So looking forward to having some more people apply for the grant money. Thank you to Rochelle and Travis for their last minute efforts, since we kind of ran it a little close to this council meeting to have everything done in time. And, you know, making phone calls during the Zoom meeting is never fun, but we got it accomplished and we made sure to get our numbers out to everybody. So I think that's kind of about it.
Joseph?
Had a really good meeting with the volunteer organizers for Movies in the Park, and we're hoping that we could pull off a few of those yet this year with the right social distancing. Hopefully 4 of them starting in August. And MPO on Thursday.
Okay. Mike, Alfredo?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. In the minutes from the last meeting, I mentioned that I think there should be a review of the nuisance ordinances. There's no response to that, and that's fine if no one is interested in reviewing those. But let me go on with that. I would ask that our tracker not include anonymous any longer. I don't think there's a reason for that, because that's how some of these, and Mark, you've talked about it, come in through the tracker, which has the option to check off anonymous. And I understand the potential fear that somebody might have that there'll be repercussions, but it's hard to address it with follow-up when you don't know who to address it with. And so I would recommend, and maybe there could be a motion on the next meeting, I would ask that somebody else consider that as well, of removing that anonymous option on the tracker, which I think was put in about 12 to 16 years ago. So I think it's useless, and I think it's provides an option or whomever to just issue a complaint. And so, and not any rationale behind it in terms of follow through. So that's that. And so I would like to see if somebody joins me on that. Then my last comment is, I sent Whitney a thank you for the quality of the last newsletter. I thought it was very good and by far the best we've received for a long time. And I would just like to get that in the records that that is an issue for me. I don't know about any others, and that's fine. But I thought it was well prepared, and the information in it were excellent. So I'm very pleased about that. That's it for me, Dave.
Mike Jones?
If I could first start by, could I get some clarification as to what the specific asks are on the job descriptions, and what goals we are or answers we are looking for from the 3 council members who voted to take these items off the agenda, as I think this is the 4th time they have been on the agenda with regards to the job descriptions. And the meeting before last, they were not moved forward so that we could have a work session, which turned into a full-blown city council meeting, and then no action was taken at that time, or they didn't pass, and then tonight we tabled them again. If I could understand what exactly the goals are to get these things taken care of, I would appreciate knowing, so that I could work potentially with some other council member to bring this to a close, so we can stop, in my opinion, unfortunately, just wasting our time and the city's time continuing to discuss these items, but not getting the answers we seek, and apparently not ever feeling like anything's good enough. So if I could be told some goals here that we're seeking to find, I would appreciate it, just on my end.
Are you wanting comment now?
Yes.
Very good. Are you done otherwise with your comments?
Oh, yes, we have a public works committee meeting next Tuesday to discuss the potential flooding issues.
So the reason, Mr. Jones, that I chose, or that I made a motion to remove them, and the request to have a public hearing that was, or excuse me, not a public hearing, a work session, was to go through these things collectively. So I think I've stated these things on multiple occasions. As a business owner, and as I've put together job descriptions and salary requirements and done those sorts of things, I've done them collectively. So at the same time, simultaneously, I think that they fit together. And from that perspective, I think that they need to be considered in the same space. Second to that, I think, which is probably even more important than doing that simultaneously, is the fact that we do have, or cross your fingers and knock on wood, that we'll be having a new city administrator starting sometime late summer, early spring, or late summer, early fall. And I do expect that person, one, will want to review that stuff and we'll have input on that. And I do, and I said when this conversation started last fall and we added positions and those sorts of things, that I do think that those things should happen when we get a new person on board. So I think that all of the information that we received from our contractor is insufficient at this juncture. And because of that, I would suggest that we hold on either of these two pieces until we have a new city administrator on board and they can take that on. In past years when we've addressed this, and I've done it once while I've been on council, that was done in tandem with a new city administrator coming on board. And I'm going to guess that that's something that they'll want to take to address as they put together their team and their staff to serve our community. And so I do think that instead of wasting our time now, as we have been, that would be something that we can wait until the new person's on board. And I guess I would just ask the question of how does it keep coming on the agenda? I know the mayor's responsible for the agenda, and the fact that we've not completed the process in which we set out originally to do in order to address these issues. So therein lies kind of my position, and specifically why I asked for them to be removed from the agenda at this juncture. So we didn't have to continue to waste our time. We'll just take them off instead of dealing with them. We need to deal with them.
Any problems with any one of those individually, Therese?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you have any problems with any of the individual job descriptions? Because that portrays exactly what they are doing as of this point in time.
No, you're missing the point, I think, Dave, which is you have to connect the two of them. The salary range is dependent upon a job description.
That's why we wanted the job description to begin with. You have the floor. I'll back out. Go ahead.
I have nothing more to say. I've said what I say, which I believe that those need to be done in tandem.
Teresa, I would just have this comment. There is an information item about salaries, and it was for discussion purposes that was submitted originally. It wasn't any pride of authorship or any of that, but it was just put in to get the ball rolling on this. Because what I'm hesitant about not acting on a wage increase is that it keeps our very quality staff, and I think we have one, at what's it going to be? You know, what's it going to be? And it gives them some uncertainty that, I mean, by the time we get somebody hired, and or if we have a recommendation and then they turn it down, or somebody doesn't like the recommendation and we can't get 3 votes. And so, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs in waiting, and I'm not worried about necessarily of having the final wage scale or the descriptions, but I think it's somewhat unfair to the existing staff members not to give an initial try at this, which can always be modified.
With all due respect, I did address that in my comments earlier, and I suggested and said that I think that the department heads and Mark need to take recommendations to the budget committee that then can bring to the council for approval, so that that can happen. And we have a process for that. It's a process the city has used in the past, not necessarily this council, but the city has used this process in the past for approval based on their performance evaluation, which their department head is responsible for, and or Mark for the executive team. And that those recommendations be consistent with the current approved budget. So I think we can still move forward with that. And I said on or before July 1, so that way that can be done. We do have another council meeting coming up. I don't know where Mark said to us the last week that he was going to do performance evaluations with or without this, so it didn't really matter. So I'm suggesting that can still be moved forward, that can go to the budget committee. The budget committee can make recommendations based on what that is provided by the staff. At the end of the day, these are taxpayer dollars, and we are elected to make sure that is, I'm not trying to do somebody's job here, and I don't want that to be the thought, but we need to have some oversight And we don't have a permanent city administrator right now. So I believe that that's the role of the city council in the interim, why we're trying to fill that role. So I believe we can move forward with that, Mr. Lafredo. I just think it's a little bit different than how we normally might otherwise do it.
Okay, Teresa, and I didn't hear anybody saying it would be followed through with the committee. I know you said it. I remember you saying it, but is it going to happen? And the next council meeting, there's not a lot of turnaround to put something together and have the budget committee meeting and get it ready to us. I'm not making excuses because I'm not on the budget committee, but I think
We have a doodle coming out that will try and get a quick meeting of the budget committee to sit down and get started on this very shortly.
Okay.
Hold on. Just, so when exactly are we planning on having the new city administrator hired?
I think based on the information that Mark provided, it's the middle of August.
Yeah, I think it's the 16th of August is the earliest.
So so what is the emergency budget committee meeting to have these things provided by July 1 if you are of the opinion, and perhaps others are of the opinion, that the new city administrator should, essentially sign off on these things? I mean, what?
No, that's not what I said.
You're wanting the new city administrator to have input on what these wages should be. Is that wrong?
No, what I'm wanting is the new city administrator to be a part of the process to set the wage, establishing the wage scale and the job descriptions component, which was an update to what we currently have, not in an effort to, and as a result or an outcome of the contract that the group was supposed to come back with recommendations, right? So that's part of that process, which is very different than doing an annual evaluation with your staff and deciding if there are pay increases or wage increases based on a performance evaluation, which is very different than setting a wage scale and determining what those are with those job descriptions. They're two very different things.
Teresa, I think there's been a sum evaluation done by Mark to end this fiscal year. I think he reported that, and certainly I can let Mark speak for himself. And I'm kind of not sure what you're saying now with Mike's question, because we're looking at middle of August perhaps at the best to hire a new person. And so again, I'm looking from a staff perspective. Is it just stay on hold until then?
Do you not understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I think I do. A budget committee recommendation.
Oh, but what you're saying is not what I said.
Okay.
That's not my intention of my comments. I think you're confusing two different things. Okay. So you have a current evaluation of current staff and a performance evaluation that is beholden to potential pay increases that come with that. So if Chad or Dalton or anybody wants to, like we approved pay increases or pay wage increase for public works earlier in the year, out of line with how it normally would have been, but we did it. So regardless, so you have a performance evaluation that would come with a potential wage increase. And so I think that is the piece that we can move forward today. And then I would ask for the department heads as they're doing their annual evaluations, and they would generally be doing them at this time, and that they would make recommendations and go that direction. And that way you could do this and move forward, and people can know what their wage increases are for this annual year. So Mike, you used to do performance evaluations and wage increases for your staff annually, correct? And so I do the same thing within my business, right? this is different than what we've been considering it. At least that I look at these very different, where we're looking at job descriptions and then what is a wage metrics or a salary metrics that goes with each job description. And that's setting out what that is and looks for within the city, and what are our salary ranges and that sort of thing based on job descriptions. And so that's different than to the current staff and what their current wages and their performance evaluation, and how to get them their pending increase that their managers would then decide what that is. That has nothing to do with us setting what that matrix is for the city. And then I would just say, I don't understand what the big hurry is to do this jobs and wage metrics. I don't understand why we're in, and why that can't be held off until later. There's just not a big hurry to do that. We've got our positions filled. They know what their salary ranges are. We're working on it, and they're going to get, and we're going to move forward with giving them their pay increase that's consistent with their performance evaluation, which is what I'm proposing.
Okay, Therese, I think I heard you very clearly and understood what you're saying, but there is a year-end summative evaluation that our interim city manager is in the process of completing. And so now the question is, where do we go from here? And what I've heard is send it to the budget committee and let them give us a recommendation as to the job description or just the salary for starting sometime in July, without a range or without a, I mean, I don't know what you're looking for, but because I also hear that you want the new hire to be a part of setting that range. And I don't disagree with that.
They're two different things. They're two different things.
I agree, but
I'm not saying that the current administrator is going to approve the current the salary increases that come with the performance evaluation. I'm not suggesting that, and that's not what I said. I think that's what you're saying. That's not what I said.
Okay, so Mark should give us a recommendation on the wages.
The wage increases that are consistent with the current performance evaluation,
right?
Not the salary ranges for that go with the job descriptions. That's a different conversation.
Okay, well, I can, okay, if I understand correctly now, we're waiting for Mark and the budget committee to come up with recommendations right now
to address the current staff and
okay.
What would be consistent for an like a performance evaluation increase that would come with their performance evaluation. Okay. Not deciding if they're somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000. Not that we'll get there, but I think we should wait with that until we get the job descriptions done and we have a new person on.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement with that, Therese, and that's why the thing is in the current agenda packet, is because there's a starting point or an ending point, whatever, for that interim period. So I think we're on the same page with that.
Isn't the current matrix done?
No.
Yes, it expires June 30th of this year. So the matrix that's in place, you can make adjustments to that matrix, I suppose, but the current matrix has not been, I'm going to use the word vetted, for accuracy beyond June 30th.
And I think it's okay for us at this juncture we can punt that and we can continue to work on it. And if we need to make resolution to that, if we have a position come open, then we can address that at that time if we don't have this resolved by then.
So the request is to make the recommendations for the current, according to the current matrix, which expires. Is that fair?
But you don't really have a, I mean, the current matrix can't apply because you're basing it on your, I mean, they only have so many dollars available that were budgeted anyway. So you're looking at, 0 to, probably a 5% increase. I know people all across the country that have lost 30% of their wage in the current situation. So that's what we're talking about. I don't think we're looking at a, this person's going to get a $10,000 bump because they're not where they need to be. That's what I want to wait and suggest that we do that if we get in that current matrix when we get a new city administrator.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing for, or I'm not arguing against any sort of wages, but just so we're clear, the motion and the argument that you are making is that the matrix, which expires at the end of this month, is what we should use to determine whether someone should get their pay increases for this upcoming next fiscal year.
Yes, because I don't think we have adequate accurate information for which to base it on otherwise.
Okay.
Now, let me get clarification again, because maybe I'm just real dense, but I think in the packet last time, there was an evaluation instrument that was developed. And Mark had asked over time for anybody that had amendments to that to submit them. I submitted a couple, or maybe more than that, and they've been included. So I had a chance to critique it, and I think I followed up with, and it doesn't have, we can wait till the new person, but the new person then sets the new goals with the department heads and make sure that they're measurable and they're time sensitive, and that whoever the supervisor is for the department heads meet with them quarterly, and then a summative at the end of the year. So that's what has been presented by me before. It wasn't accepted, but it wasn't rejected. And so I don't know what to say about that, because there is a new instrument that we saw last week and prior to that.
And filled with inaccurate information.
What am I inaccurate about?
No, the one that was provided to us from the consultant, that's what I'm referring to. That's what I'm referencing.
I'm referring to the one that Mark submitted to us. I think that was you, Mark.
Isn't that passed though?
Yeah.
That was the evaluation form. That evaluation form passed. That's separate.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So we have a current one.
Well, that's the evaluation. That doesn't have anything to do with the salary piece.
I didn't say it did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
I'm going to shut this down because I think.
Well, let me finish one more, Dave. Please let me finish one more thing.
Go ahead.
But the evaluations can be completed, and then the salaries obviously should be linked to the evaluations. And so for this year, if nothing else, I'm not saying set something in stone going forward. But I think, again, we've got the evaluation instrument approved. We've got it, the interim city manager, who I have confidence in, doing the evaluation. If there are goals written that are measurable and quantified, and that quarterly formative assessments are done, and then a summative one at the end of the fiscal year, towards the end of the fiscal year. So that's the process I see that is effective. And if you only do one evaluation on the person, or sit down and assess their work at the end of the year, I don't think it's fair to the employee. And to put in corrective actions or whatever based on the objectives that the two people have established together. So I will stop with that.
Okay, I'm going to go on. Chad, you got anything to say on public safety report?
Well, I've not been able to give my report, so I'd like to be
Well,
able to do that.
Please do. Please go right ahead.
So we have Metro Waste on Wednesday, so I'll have a report on that next week. I'm also curious if Dalton has an update on when RI, I see that there was an update in here, but it doesn't say on what the timing is. Do we have timing on when RI is going to put their parklet in, put the parklet in? So if there's any update on that, I would be interested in knowing. And then Dalton, I also have questions about, you said that the public work, or Mike said the Public Works Committee is going to meet to talk about flooding. And I would just, I don't know if you've had any conversations with folks that have been involved in that process again. And I know I discussed this earlier, but I know that there are a variety of other options. And I think that those are things that you guys might want to, bring to your Public Works Committee for consideration, as opposed to just whether or not we do insurance. And so, or move the location. There are a variety of other considerations, and I'm hoping that you guys are going to vet those. And if you need help connecting to those folks, I'm happy to make those introductions so we can understand and know what all of our options are. So I think that's all I have for now, but I would love, and Dalton, you're welcome to email me if that's easier.
Well, Chris, let me just respond to the Public Works Committee, is that it's going to be a process. I don't expect after the first meeting, Mike Jones, you can chime in, to come back with recommendations, but because they're coming in pretty cold, and Dalton will have some options, I think, and so I mean that will be a starting point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
Brad, you got anything more to say? Dalton, go ahead.
Yep. RI emailed me this afternoon, said they plan on having the parklet installed by June 25th. That came through, I think, at like 5:15 this evening. They had some stuff going on, I think personal wise is why they have not installed it yet. And then as far as the Public Works Committee, I plan on giving them the same presentation that I gave to you guys, with some updates, obviously, with the information that we now have, and then kind of going from there.
Thank you. I really do hope that there are experts in this space, and I don't expect you or anybody else on the Public Works Committee to be experts on flooding, but I really do think those are folks we should tap into to get some guidance on this.
Yeah, and I've been working with the floodplain person from Bolton and Mink, bouncing some options and ideas off of him, and this is what he does full time for Minnesota and Iowa. So I'm definitely seeking help where I recognize I have some weaknesses. So I appreciate the suggestion, and we're on it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Dave.
Now, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I think it'd be good just to get confirmation that the city administrator interview process that's been sent out is acceptable to people, so we can all schedule appropriately.
Can you repeat those or send out it again one more time, those dates?
Yeah, it was sent out earlier today.
Okay, maybe I just didn't see it, Mark.
So July 1st, starting at 5:15 would be discussion of the process, and then candidate 1 at 5:30, candidate 2 at 6:35, candidate 3 at 7:40, candidate 4 at 5:30 p.m. on July 2nd, candidate 5 at 6:35 p.m. on July 2nd. Now that presumes there are 5. We don't know yet that there will be 5. And then starting at 7:40 p.m. will be discussion of the candidates. So
has someone decided it's limited to 5?
No, well, here, what I just said is not correct. So the updated schedule now is Friday, July 10th would be a meet and greet starting at 5:30. Saturday, July 11th, 8:45 is the start with the consultant. First candidate, 9 o'clock, second candidate, 10:10. third candidate 11:20, and then panel debriefing at 12:30, and department head interviews would be in between there. And there would be tours as conducted as was previously. So those July dates have been preempted now by moving it back, or the early July dates are moved back to July 10th and 11th because of the 4th of July weekend being in there. So I just want to be able to tell Charlene that, yes, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I had asked, and if I'm the only one, then just throw it out the window, but that we have, if we have quality candidates, up to 7, and then whittle it down to 3, and then re-interview those 3.
Yeah, that's what's scheduled to happen on July 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
And
I only see
No.
5 candidates though.
yeah, at this point, there are just 5. So if you want more, that's fine. You can have as many as you want. Charlene is going to send me the names that she has for consideration either tomorrow or Wednesday, and then you'll get them. And then these July 1st and 2nd dates are the time to narrow down the field to something less than that.
Yeah, since she's under contract, I would assume she will prioritize those, in her opinion.
I assume she will, yeah.
Well, I would expect that she would.
So I just want to be sure that people are on board with this process. And if there are more than 5, they're going to have to be starting earlier or going later or at another day, or that's going to be what you'll have to decide at the July 22nd meeting.
Okay, all right.
Or the June 22nd meeting, I'm sorry.
So now we have a June 22nd meeting.
Yeah, a week from today. So this is set up to be a dual interview process, and maybe you won't need that. Maybe you'll be able to complete it in one interview process. But that's the purpose for the meeting next Monday.
Will the meeting start at 6 p.m.? I guess I haven't checked my emails today throughout the day. So if you sent that to me, I apologize.
Well, the schedule right now starts at 5:30, but if you want it to start at 6, we can do that. It's scheduled to take 1 hour per person at this point.
And that's the 22nd of June?
No, the 22nd of June starts at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
A week from today. Starts at 6.
Gotcha.
And that's just to review the candidates. So our candidates, which ones we're going to bring in for the telephone interview or the Zoom interviews, which will be on the 1st and the 2nd. And then whatever we decide to bring in for in-person interviews will be on the 11th.
Yes. Unless somebody sticks out so clearly in those July 1st and 2nd interviews, and maybe you come to consensus at that point. I don't know. That's up to you.
Mark, have you emailed us all those various dates? Because they've kind of been.
You should have it.
Mark, can somebody send just a meeting invite so we've got those and can just accept them on our calendar?
Yes, we will do that tomorrow.
Thank you.
And okay, that's great.
So thank you. That's all I wanted to get in.
Thanks, Mark.
We've got some nifty name badges for people now. Look like this, magnetic. So you can pick those up whenever you are able to.
Oh, good.
You just put them in our folders?
Yes, we'll put them in your folders.
Motion to adjourn. We have an exempt session afterwards, so everybody other than council and Sean will have to leave. So I need the motion to adjourn.
We have one pending.
We do? Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Okay. Second?
Second.
We are.
Roll call.
Series,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Okay, Matt, who all gets to stay on this call?
I mean, whoever you guys want to have, the elected officials, the police chief, and I, and then if there's for some reason another member of staff needs to stay on, Travis or someone else, that's fine. But this is not something we need to record or take notes. So if Travis has better things to do and you guys don't need him, he could probably drop off.
We've adjourned, so
I
I
think I
think
need-
everybody, other than who you've mentioned, elected, and Chad, stick around.
Mr.
I
Mayor,
think
do you
Travis
want-
might need to still run the meeting.